So the second half against Brentford was without doubt alongside greater freedom being given to United's forward line to allow them to drop into these certain areas and make these movements that massively improve United's ability to work the ball into dangerous positions from the first to the second half. But let me first tell you about this specific pass that United need to use more often, and while it may seem like a minor suggestion, I'm going to break down the positional implications of it. But if we first look at this clip from the first half, we can see the effect clearly. As Jonny Evans is about to play this pass back to Andre Onana, you can see that Casemiro and Eriksen are sitting alongside each other in a midfield double pivot, with a lopsided back three of Evans, De Ligt and Martinez behind them, with Dalot then being given the freedom to push up the right flank, which allowed Rashford to move in field, which was a crucial aspect of United's game, but I'll come on to that later on in the video. Onana has possession and you can see Brentford are sitting in a 5-3-2 shape, with the front two of Schade and Mbeumo ready to pressurise the United back line. However, because Ten Hag seemingly gave Onana more freedom to push higher up the pitch in the middle third, this gave United an overload in this part of the pitch. If Onana had retained a deeper position inside of the box, then United wouldn't have been able to overload Brentford's front three in this situation, highlighting the importance of allowing Onana to push outside of his box. And what Onana does here initially is excellent. He holds onto the ball, trying to bait Kevin Schade into the press, and from here United should be looking to play this bounce pass from Onana into Casemiro, who's dropping towards the ball, and then the ball can go out to De Ligt on the right side. But instead Onana declines the option to play the pass into Casemiro, likely due to him being under pressure and not wanting to take that risk, and instead moves the ball directly out to De Ligt, which at first glance may just seem like the same thing. However, because Schade is cutting off the passing lane into De Ligt somewhat, Onana has to play the ball to De Ligt around the outside of Schade, meaning that De Ligt can't stride onto the ball and has to kind of step back in order to receive the ball and then drive forward. But what exactly is the difference between a bounce pass from Onana to Casemiro out to De Ligt and Onana just playing that pass to De Ligt himself? Well, before I break down the importance of the bounce pass in general, let me tell you about the jersey of the day. It's this Manchester United 2011-2012 home shirt with Paul Scholes on the back, which was the year he came out of retirement midway through the season. But if you go over to Jersey FIFA, they've also got other iconic jerseys from Manchester United and other clubs, as well as the new season jerseys as well. You can use code ATLANTIS at checkout for a discount. A link will be in my Instagram bio, which I will leave linked in the description. So what exactly is the importance of the bounce pass? Well, when De Ligt does receive the ball from Onana, you can see that he had to take a few steps backwards in order to pick up the ball from that deeper position than ideal. If we rewind a second or so, you can see that if Onana had played the slightly riskier pass into Casemiro's feet, and then he was able to bounce the ball straight out to De Ligt, because of the angle of the pass, De Ligt can stride forward into the space with his first touch taking him close to the halfway line, making it hard for Schade, who has committed to press Onana, getting taken out of the game, with about 10 to 15 yards to make up. If De Ligt had received the bounce pass, his first touch straight away would take him forward, and now rather than Schade being able to eat up the ground and get back behind the ball, De Ligt would have had about 10 yards on him, and with the Brentford defensive shape retreating into their own half, he probably would have been able to drive at Lewis Potter on this left side, forcing him to push out and commit, leaving space in behind for Eriksen to move into. And we saw this a few times throughout the first half, United not being intentional enough with playing through the centre, forcing Brentford's midfield and forward line to push up to commit to the press, and then being able to exploit the space vacated. But in the second half there seemed to be a direct instruction to use a double pivot in order to play those bounce passes, to then allow De Ligt or Martinez to exploit the space wide of Brentford's narrow front five, and we saw this straight after half time in the lead up to Garnacho's goal. So straight after half time we see Onana once again being used as a free man, creating a back three with Evans and De Ligt. And I have to give credit to Ten Hag, as what really impressed me about his use of Onana was how much freedom he gave him in possession. I mean, here he's walking forward with the ball, he's on the edge of the middle third, and this is where the overload against the Brentford front two can be created. In previous games, I felt that the double pivot for United are far too static, not moving towards the ball and offering Onana an option. However, in this game we saw both Casemiro and Eriksen moving forward and opening up that passing lane. Onana waits and waits until Kane Lewis Potter is right next to him before he plays that bounce pass into Casemiro, meaning that when Casemiro is able to play the first time bounce pass out to De Ligt, look how much space there is between Kane Lewis Potter, who's been pressurising Onana, and De Ligt, and now De Ligt has a massive amount of space wide of the Brentford midfield three to drive into and progress the ball into the Brentford half. But now we come on to Ten Hag's use of Rashford and the effect that giving him more freedom had. You can see Dalot is holding the width in the system, pushing Brentford back into a back five, which therefore creates a space for De Ligt to move into. But Rashford has been given freedom to float between the lines, and now he's able to pick up the ball in a central position. Now another thing I liked in the second half was that United were a lot more patient with their attacks. In the first half I felt we were just too direct, racing forward and not creating as good opportunities as we did in the second. And we can see that here, as even though Brentford are able to get back behind the ball in a very narrow 5-3-2 shape with everyone behind the ball, United use principles of baiting the press and then exploiting the space in the wide positions very well. Here Johnny Evans once again baits the press, waits for Mbeumo to move towards him before he can then shift the ball into Lisandro Martinez. If he shifts it too early, Mbeumo's going to be able to get across and close off the space for Lisandro Martinez. But because he's waited, Mbeumo is so close to Evans that once that ball gets played to Martinez, Mbeumo just can't get back across to close down Lisandro Martinez. But now we see another aspect of United's game that really impressed me, and that was Hojlund's willingness to drop off from the forward line and link the play with his back to goal. Now I have to say he's definitely not as good as Xerxes at doing this, and there were a few times where he wasn't able to get the ball under control and the attack broke down. However, there were some other occasions where he did fantastically to spin with the ball and link the attack very efficiently, and we see him do this here, and it stems from United pushing players forward to create a front six. As you can see with Rashford, Casemiro and Bruno Fernandes holding higher positions, they are able to pin the Brentford backline backwards and stop one of the defenders moving out with Hojlund, which allows him to drop off, open up the passing lane which splits the Brentford midfield line from Martinez into Hojlund. And Hojlund in this situation has the awareness to recognise that no one's moved out with him on his back, and so he can turn with the ball. He links the play with Rashford, looks for the 1-2 and he's just unsuccessful, but it was a great move up until this period, with Rashford once again showing that he can be very effective in central positions because of his interplay and ability to thread a pass in behind as he did here for Hojlund. But the move carries on, and once again we can see the impact of Rashford's positional freedom. Here he's dropping deep and he receives the ball off Christian Eriksen with Dalot high and wide on the right flank, pinning the Brentford left wing back backwards, creating that space for Rashford to receive the ball and get the ball out of his feet. But on the far side we can see another example of United overloading a certain area. Casemiro has moved towards the back post, which means that the Brentford right wing back on the far side has to come across to pick up Casemiro, and in doing so leaves Garnacho in space behind him. Rashford picks up the ball and plays a fantastic cross over to Garnacho, and the finish is sensational, giving United the equaliser. Now for Hojlund's winning goal, which came just after the 60th minute mark, it was actually United's high pressing which was the catalyst for this goal. Here as the ball goes out to Brentford's right-sided centre-back, you can see that both Hojlund and Rashford are pressing aggressively, and what I really like about this is that Rashford doesn't hold a wide position, he instead moves in field close to the penalty spot in order to stop that ball going back to Flecken in goal and allowing Brentford to play through the centre, and so this forces Brentford out wide onto the right side, which if you know anything about pressing is optimally where you want to be forcing the opponent, just because when the player is receiving the ball close to the touchline they have very limited options, and we see that here. You've got Eriksen and Bruno Fernandes who have pushed up onto the Brentford midfield double pivot, and as soon as the pass goes from the Brentford right-sided centre-back into the right-back, Garnacho is there to immediately move out and apply the pressure. As the Brentford right-back receives the ball close to the touchline, you can see Casemiro actually does very well. He gets across to Damsgaard early and cuts off that pass into him down the line, and because Brentford have made the initial mistake of playing out down the flank, they are now boxed in, and so even though the ball goes into Norgard, Bruno Fernandes is there instantly to apply the pressure. Hojlund's come across, and now you can see that Brentford are completely boxed in and they're forced to go long, which allows Lisandro Martinez to regain possession inside the Brentford half. He gives the ball to Christian Eriksen, who can now turn, and he plays that forward pass directly into Bruno Fernandes, and this is exactly why Bruno Fernandes is so important to United, because the vision to know Hojlund is making the run over his right shoulder is top level, and the first time flick completely takes Nathan Collins out of the game, releases Hojlund, and the touch from Hojlund to set himself up is Ruud van Nistelrooy-esque, and the dinked finish over Flecken shows that Hojlund has the composure and the finishing ability to become a top level striker. It's just consistency at this point, because he clearly has this sort of finish in his locker. We've seen him do it before, but ultimately in this game it wasn't one player or simply Ten Hag's tactics which won us the game. It was a mixture and combination of them all, and so I will be doing more tactical videos as well as individual videos from this game, analysing certain players. I'll do Rashford, Hojlund, Garnacho, whoever else you want me to do, let me know in the comment section. I'll also leave my Patreon linked in the description and comment section as well. I do an in-game live match day analysis, so if you are in the Telegram group chat, you can get access to that. Also got unreleased videos and articles on my Patreon as well.